Hey there, and welcome to the Death to Vanilla podcast. I'm Stephen Burkhart, the host of the show and the founder of Burkhart Creative Agency. If you're looking for fresh ideas and tactical advice on how to take your marketing to the next level, you have come to the right place. We interview industry professionals who teach us how to courageously create, boldly innovate, and experiment, and they teach you to do the same. Now, we are super grateful that you're here and watching, but if you're looking to get off your phone and have a little less screen time, we have an audio-only version of the show, and we have links to that show in the description below. Without further ado, let's get into the show.
Wanna cause no problems. I just wanna live my life, but I keep on hearing about nonsense. Me and my dons ain't mobsters, but you know when you see imposters, we know how to read them faces, same way you know how to read them comments. If you wanna talk, let's talk, but around here, make sure you're walking your talk is constant.
Well, hey, everyone, this is the Death to Vanilla podcast, and I'm so excited to bring in Ashley today. And she's kind of got her hands on a lot of things like journalism, writing, copywriting. You've founded a company, or one of the co-founders at least, of a company called Command AF that's developing personal brands so that people can get noticed. And that's perfect because our podcast is Death to Vanilla, which is the whole point, is to get noticed. And so I guess just to kick things off, what does it mean to you to have like the whole Death to Vanilla idea? Like, how has that been incorporated into your life? How do you feel about it?
I actually got interested in even doing this at all because I love the idea of Death to Vanilla. I think coming from journalism and moving into marketing, I thought that marketing was going to be super boring and that people in marketing were not that creative. And I didn't know that much about it, but I had those judgments about it just based on, I don't know, maybe just what I had known about it. But I think Death by Vanilla to me means like getting out of that coffin created for creative thoughts. I believe that especially in early stage companies, it's kind of important to get out of your comfort zone and go for new techniques. Not everything is ever going to work out because different audiences and different things require different strategies. But I think that getting out of your comfort zone is like very important.
That's awesome. So like, so I'm kind of curious why you thought marketing was going to be so boring. Did you what were your preconceived notions on how that was going to end up looking?
I thought that marketing, I think back then, was just people kind of advertising, getting in their name and things, not actually telling stories, which I like doing a lot in journalism. I didn't think that it could have a lot of personality. And I think that might just be because I knew people when I was younger who were in marketing jobs and they didn't like their job that much, or they acted like that they couldn't do anything if they didn't get permission from sales teams, or that everything that they did was kind of dependent on what the people, investors in the company thought, and that if they didn't like anything that they went for, then they would get in trouble for that. And I always thought like, oh, why would anyone want to do that?
So do you feel like that's not true, or do you feel like you've just found places where you have more liberty than that?
I do feel like it can be. I know I haven't actually had a job where I've had that experience, but I've found that when you're at a company that doesn't have like dependencies to answer to, maybe because they don't have outside investors and things, that you have a lot more freedom to kind of just like branch out and stretch your wings and find new things to get into. I have a lot of people that I know in marketing that have been in companies where they're like, I wanted to do that thing and I wanted to pitch that idea, but I would give it up to my manager and they would tell me, oh, we can't do that because people that are investing in us would not like that. That would be too bold for them. That would be too out of the box for them. And then they might pull out. And I think that I've been at a lot of companies that are private. And I think that's kind of helped me be able to, have creativity and not feel like I'm going to get penalized for like attempting new things.
Right. No, I think this is great. And I think for anyone who's like getting into marketing, this is super helpful in the sense that, do you feel like these privately owned companies, was it because of investors, or were your direct reports more like the owners of the company, like people who had like they were the ones taking the risk as opposed to like a marketing manager who wants to keep his job?
I've kind of had on both halves of that. Now I have a report in marketing. So the manager of marketing is who I would go to, but we have, the company isn't that big yet. We're under 50 at PUSHNAMI now. which is good because you're getting into that point that I love in startups where everything is innovation, innovation, innovation. Go for new things, try new techniques. We want to do everything that we can to get our name out there, and
Right.
not everything that we do is going to be successful, but we're not going to get in trouble for not, like, we don't have to answer to anybody. And I think that's kind of the cool thing about it.
Right. It kind of gives you that space to experiment, which is huge because otherwise you kind of get stuck in whatever everyone's comfortable with, which may not be the right choice. You know, if you have a marketing manager that's only done like radio ads, convincing them to do TikTok may be a bit more of a challenge than it is for a scrappier, smaller company who's looking at like, no, like getting noticed is the most important thing, and we need to get noticed yesterday.
Exactly. You know, Clubhouse. Have you been on?
Mm-hmm.
Have you been on Clubhouse?
So I've listened into like one. So I'm not like heavily inundated with it yet, but I've heard a lot about it. It sounds amazing.
My teammate Jack and I, we both didn't know too much about it, but we had an account just because we got an invite and we had paid attention a little bit to it. And one day we just kind of pitched like the idea for PUSHNAMI, like, hey, what about if we did a Clubhouse talk, and we did it for affiliate marketing, because we're moving into the affiliate marketing field now. Trying to get more push notification action going that way.
Yeah.
And we looked and looked and looked, and we couldn't find anybody yet who had done anything in affiliate on Clubhouse, at least that we could identify. And we thought, well, this might be the time that we could put our niche into Clubhouse, and maybe it'll be okay, maybe it won't be okay. We had 80 people show up to the talk.
Awesome.
Which I thought was a pretty big turnout for a thing that we didn't know if it was even gonna have anybody show up at all. We did a lot of promotion on LinkedIn and things, and we actually only promoted it for about a week because that was about how long we had the idea. But nobody put any tape up for like me and Jack to do that. They're just like, okay, well, you want to do it? Well, then go for it. It wasn't like a thing where we have to go get approval from that team and then that team and then that team. And then by the time it gets to the top, you're just like, I don't even want to do it anymore. That's what I was afraid marketing was going to be like. The constant tape.
Well, I think it sounds to me like it's kind of this idea of self-awareness where like, you know yourself and you need that variety. I'm sure there's people who are like, I literally want to run Facebook ads all day long. And that's the only thing I want to do. In which case a bigger corporate company is perfect for you, because you're not going to be doing anything else because of because of all the red tape.
Do all of that, and that'll be your job all the time.
Right. Exactly.
I think that's another thing about being at a small company that I like too, is I get to put my hand in anything I want to put my hand in. If I want to just like be in on a meeting and I'm not even in that department or in that field, I can just like pick it up and learn how to do it. And people empower you to do that. I know at big companies, you have to pick a thing, and then you have to be in that thing all the time because you're in a big corporate kind of situation.
Right.
It's not for me. I mean, I came from journalism because I like to be busy with a lot of different things. And I think that going into marketing, I've had to find jobs that kind of fit that mold with me.
So you still needed something to get in the door, but then you also found yourself in situations where you could experiment yourself with other areas. And I mean, because like storytelling is like the skill outside of like maybe empathy, or I don't know. I'm just saying the word empathy because it's like the hot phrase right now. So I'll take that back. But yeah, like storytelling is the thing, because that's what you're doing when you're posting an email newsletter. It's what you're doing when you're making a video. It's what you're doing when you post a graphic. Is what's the story of this company? How is it helping people? And how is it connecting with your audience?
Well, and people don't want to, usually at least, but people don't usually want to hear like why your feature or why your product is amazing. Yeah. That's not that enticing to most people. Like, I mean, it looks good for the company and all, but like if you're just like wanting to talk to people about it, they're just like, why should I care? And that's kind of how I think that I've been able to make my way into marketing, is because I know how to weave facts into like more of the emotional aspect of things. It's not just a case study results kind of numbers and stats kind of thing. You have to dig in to like what's at stake from a larger perspective and deeper motivations and internal driving forces. You have to find out why people should care, because they don't have to care. Like nobody's going to make them.
Right.
And you just throwing around your big figures about your company's 15 features. People don't care. You got to be compelling. I know people don't want to hear that, but yeah, they just don't.
Well, it's so funny you say that, because I was just having a conversation with a guy actually yesterday on another podcast I was doing, And we were talking about Instagram and how like just historically it's more difficult to get noticed on Instagram before now than it was in the past. And so him and I were going back and forth on what might that be. And we kind of like got on this idea that like, I think there was probably just a lot of lazy marketers that were making headway because they were simply posting. And now that you actually have to have a strategy, and now you actually have to have good storytelling, and the bar has been raised, and you can't do lazy marketing anymore. And so people are still going on Instagram and getting noticed. It's just they have a plan and they're trying really hard. And his thing was like, if you're not getting noticed on a platform, you're doing something wrong. Because they're all meant to show the content that people are actually engaging with. And that's a hard pill to swallow.
Oh, definitely. And I do feel like the only way that you could escape that is like for Instagram is a good example, I think that you mentioned, is if you were one of those companies who in the very beginning, they just got on there and they didn't know what they're doing, but they did it and they got a big enough following. And now your following is so huge at this point that you're probably fine. But anybody else who's a newer company or who just didn't use it, you better be doing a good job at it to get people looking at it because you have a lot of competition.
It's spending some coin too.
Oh yeah. There's
Facebook wants their money. So before we get too far, you brought up hopefully I'm saying this right, PUSHNAMI?
Yep, that's
okay. Cool. So that's perfect because you guys work on like doing push notifications for businesses.
Exactly.
So I can't think of anyone who does this better than iFunny. I don't know if you've downloaded the app, but like, and I actually deleted it because I forget why. I think I switched phones and just forgot to download it again. But man, their push notification game is off the charts. And it was impossible for me to forget about iFunny because, you know, it would be lunchtime and they'd be like, feeling a little hungry, here's some Lunchable memes or whatever, just like something silly like that. And I was like, actually, I am hungry and it is lunchtime, and what perfect timing. And they just do that like all the time, like throughout the day. And it was impossible for me to forget about them. So I know push notifications are huge when done properly. So I love to hear about tell me a little bit about PUSHNAMI and how, like, this maybe it's like, I guess, a case study on like what you guys have done for someone that's really helped elevate their awareness game.
Yeah, definitely. So PUSHNAMI, our main goal mission is about making web pages more money. But we do that by providing browser-based push notifications and email. There could be goals depending on what kind of company you're in. If you're a news and media company, maybe your goal is engagement. If you're an e-commerce customer, maybe it's just to convert subscribers to go back and finish the purchase. But it's an omni-channel messaging platform, basically. So think about app push, web push, email, all those kind of things. We have about 20,000 websites using PUSHNAMI now. We're about to hit our 500 billion push notification point, which is kind of a big deal since we've only been around since 2017 now. But one of our clients that I think has been having a lot of success using PUSHNAMI is Newsweek.
Okay.
They were one of our first big news and media companies. And I think in the beginning for PUSHNAMI, a lot of it was like, okay, well, let's get into the stores. Let's get into the e-commerce. Let's get into the affiliate. It was like, but news has a unique angle that you can hook people in using different automations with push. If you didn't finish a story, for example, like they know that you only got halfway down, maybe like you got distracted and like an hour later you get a push notification like, hey, you didn't finish this. You want to get to the bottom of it? Or maybe it's just like, I want to get this reader who keeps coming back to my page to just like actually become a subscriber. I want them to update to the paid plan. Anything like that you can, news and media companies, of course, have a tough time with everything changing. And now we have cookie-less issues coming up and other things like that. They're doing everything that they can now to make sure that their content is going to be able to get out there and that they're going to have the data. And that's a good way to get your first party data without, Facebook having it all. Because that's what a lot of news and media companies, they think that's the only thing they have to do is I'm going to post my link to my content on Facebook, and then people who follow me on Facebook are going to look at it. But I mean, chances are, unless you're having a lot of paid money behind that, you're not getting a lot of people looking at that page anyway.
Well, and certainly if you have gone to all the trouble and spent all the money to get to someone to notice you, the worst thing that could happen is for them to forget about you,
Oh yeah.
because the big expense is really getting them to see you in the first place. And so it would be just silly to have people lose their place, forget
Just
about
letting
you,
people
move
go,
on.
you know?
Yeah.
And you want to keep them hooked and keep them motivated. I know that different people have different strategies of doing this, and there are companies who are like, I don't want to be too annoying, like maybe one push notification a day, or maybe even just a few a week is enough for me. And you can kind of tailor that based on different user information to get data on people, like what are they clicking on. Hello, kitty cat.
Every time I have a podcast, I just need to like lock this cat in
I
the
have
room.
2 cats, and
Yeah?
one behind me.
I saw a tail at one point.
Oh yeah, that was Nala. I'm like, every time I do anything on a video call, I'm like shocked if she's not just walking on my keyboard.
Right? Oh, that's
Yeah.
hilarious. That's so crazy. Is that based on Lion King?
Oh yeah, we have the other cat is named Mufasa, so we're not very creative. We're just gonna name them Lion King names. And
No, that's just so funny because there was a girl that used to live with me and my wife. She was transitioning in where she was living and whatnot, and she had a cat named Nala, and that cat was the reason we liked cats and the reason we got our own. So now all our cats are Harry Potter names, which is also equally yeah.
Wait,
So
which name is this cat?
so this one is, so they're all boy names, but 2 of them are girls. So whatever. It's 2021, right? So Albus is the man cat. And that's the one you saw. And then there's 2 others that are probably too chicken to come say hi. And one of them is Remus, and the other one is Sirius. And Sirius is a black cat. So
okay, I love that.
Yeah. So when
you need inspiration for names, just go for movies.
Right? It's so true. And we love Harry Potter. So we're like, why not just have more of that floating around?
Oh yeah.
Definitely. Cool. So man, you guys are so accomplished with PUSHNAMI. Newsweek obviously is like a whale of a client, and so congratulations on that. That's awesome. We talked a little bit. Well, we're going to talk a little bit about bold marketing, and so I'm really curious. Some of the things that you've tried, whether it's PUSHNAMI or whether it's Command AF, which clearly the word Command AF for a company is probably bold enough as it is, but I love that. It's definitely catches your attention. What kind of things have you done that you would kind of describe as like bold or different or out of the box?
I think one of the things I did just getting into PUSHNAMI, actually, I've only been there. It feels like a little bit longer for people because I got super active on LinkedIn during pandemic times, but I have only been at PUSHNAMI since September. And I went in there with an agenda there's this guy, I don't know if you follow him on LinkedIn. His name is Casey Graham, and he is like the actual founder of Command AF.
Okay.
And I had been following him on LinkedIn last year for, I don't know, probably since February. And I had been following him because no matter what I did, anytime I went on LinkedIn, in my feed, it was his employees from Gravy constantly flooding my feed. And I had no idea what Gravy was. And then finally I was like, I gotta follow their boss. Like, what are they doing? Like, and then it made me want to know about the company. Like, what does the company do? What are these employees doing? How is he getting them that engaged?
Right.
And I followed them for a long time and I never talked to him. And then when I joined PUSHNAMI, I messaged him. I'm like, hey, how are you getting your employees to do this? Like, what is the secret? Like, how are you getting your company to actually want to do that? Like, are you giving them away anything? Like, how do you motivate people to do that on their own free will, on their own personal profiles with their own content? Like, he isn't copying content and being like, hey, post about that. They're just doing it. And I wanted to know how. And he was like, well, I see that you're new at PUSHNAMI. Maybe I'll just have a meeting with you guys and we can talk about it. And I was like, you're going to do that for me? Like, I don't even know you. And I implemented within just weeks of being at PUSHNAMI, where nobody knew me that much yet. And they're probably like, who she thinks she is coming in here and
guns blazing.
Yeah, exactly. But they all they all took it. Like, they all took the meeting. Pretty much everybody at PUSHNAMI actually showed up, which was cool. And they listened to him talking about it, like why his company is doing that and how we got him to do that. And basically it was all about personal branding. And I never make any of my employees post, number one. And I don't make them ever talk about the company. The only reason you know that they're talking about the company is if you go to their profile and you're like, oh, they work there. Like, and that's
Right.
why, I mean, I noticed their cover photo. They have that. And I think that was why it kept coming up to my attention. Like, that company is posting again, that company, that company, that company. And then he has, like 200 employees now. So it's a lot, like everything on my LinkedIn feed was from them. And I asked him basically how to teach me how to do that. And he kind of taught me how to open the floodgates of that. And I have 15 employees at PUSHNAMI who have agreed to join. And they've all been doing such an amazing job. A lot of them went from only having like 120 followers on LinkedIn to having like thousands. And it was just because they're just talking about what they do and they're talking about what they know. They don't have to talk about PUSHNAMI, but people know that they work for PUSHNAMI because we have the cover photo showing them that they do.
Right.
But, and it's getting us like leads. Like you get leads because people are like, I like this human being. And that's because it's about storytelling. Everything is.
Right.
They like you because they know about you and they know that you're an authentic human being. And then at that point, they have more faith in you to do a job.
Right. Oh yeah. You're definitely like, you're really taking the walls down of resistance to like, this is not like a sales pitch. This is just people talking, and not many people resist that.
The clients are coming to these people now. Like,
yeah,
we don't have to necessarily go after them. They're just like, they want to know like what PUSHNAMI is about after they follow people. Like one of my employees at PUSHNAMI, her name is Michelle. She is brilliant, and she works in data science, and people in data science like all over the United States now are like, how are you doing what you're doing? They just want to know, and they want to join PUSHNAMI now. Like they want to find a job at PUSHNAMI because she is cool. It's just like, it doesn't help with like sales. It helps with like just getting your name out there, and it helps with us like finding amazing people to hire, which is cool. Like you don't even put money into it that way. You just you're finding them.
So when you say they join Command AF, are they kind of more of like a coaching service, or
Command AF is a coaching platform basically that Casey came up with after he had like a ton of people like me who came to him and was like, hey, like, how do you do what you're doing? And then when he kept in touch with all of these people, he was like, I'm going to have you guys join as members, but if you do it, you have to commit to things. So we're committed to helping people. We're committed to, if anybody messages me on LinkedIn now and asks me for help on how to do personal branding, I will get back with them. If anybody within our little coaches program needs things, we help each other. We edit for each other if we have to. We give each other feedback and advice. We share analytics. We kind of do everything that we can. And we also like try to empower people in our own companies to do what we're doing.
That's cool. No, I mean, that's amazing, because the competition is just only increasing to even have your personal brand stand out, and to be able to have someone coach you through that has got to be helpful. And so
I've found it invaluable. I actually I'm open about this, but I have probably 10 to 15 job offers a week now, and I'm not applying for any jobs. I'm not looking for a job. I'm happy at my job, but they're coming. And it's just because of like what I've been doing on there. And if that did not happen to me before. I wasn't having people flood my inbox with anything but sales pitches before. And now I'm having people come to me and they ask me for help, or they ask if I can join their company, things like that, which has definitely been cool. So I know it's effective. And I think I got into it at a good time before it got too saturated, because it's getting a lot more difficult now. The algorithm has changed a little bit too. And that's another thing that we do at Command AF is like, we figure out like what's going on and like why things perform better. And then like the next month they're not anymore. And it's because they tweak with it all the time. You have to keep up with it. And we have good people in the company who can kind of dig into that and be like, okay, like we know what's happening now.
Yeah, it's super dynamic how that works, because I was even talking the other day to someone about how when stories first came out on Instagram, those had a different algorithm, and then Reels had a different algorithm, and IGTV had a different algorithm. And because at the end of the day, these platforms are trying to get people to adopt certain things. And then once they adopt them, then it kind of goes back to more restrictive. And then of course, you're always playing this game of how do I try to maintain some level of reach with my content.
Oh yeah. And how come when I used to put an image it was doing well. And now if I put an image in a post, it's taking like audience away from me. I actually have had somebody at one point that was like, hey, Ashley, I used to see your post in my feed every morning at like 9 a.m. and now I'm not anymore. And I was like, why is that? And I like shared that feedback with Command AF people, and they all went through everything I'd been doing and tried to like play together like why that had been happening. Like what was going on, what had changed. And it could
Right.
be things like if you put too many hashtags, it doesn't like that anymore. Like you have
Oh,
to,
geez.
it's completely evolving. You have to keep up with it. And it's a lot. It's good to have people help you with that though.
Right. No, that's good. I was getting a little suspicious of the hashtag game because it used to be that you'd want to use all 30. And then I would do that and it'd be like, and then I'd have posts that almost had no hashtags and it would be like twice as far. And who knows? It could be just like how well the content resonated. But I was like, I guess hashtags aren't all what they cracked up to be anymore. So you just have to adjust.
Yeah, and it's just like keeping on top of that when you have other things to do is tough. It's good to have a team of people that kind of give feedback on like what they've been finding out too. And a lot of that is just like you have to play with it and experiment and do different things. There are times when I think that I've posted like one sentence and that's performed better than anything. And then I do that again and it's like nobody even looked at it. Like I had to have it filled up to the character limit and then I got all of the activity. I don't know. It's just wild how often those things can change and like what it is, why they do it like that. I don't know, but kind of cool.
Some scientist in some dark room is playing around with math equations, just making. It's so true. So I'm kind of curious. You've obviously made a valid argument for the purpose of having a personal brand. Just like you said, it's promoted business, it's promoted you personally. What do you think are probably like 2-3 common missteps that people do when they're building their personal brand that's like really shooting themselves in the foot?
Oh yeah. I would think that when you're doing what I'm doing, you have to be working for a company that's okay with that. There are companies who do not like that. I have had messages from people who have told me that they wanted to do what I was doing and they did it for a while and then they got negative feedback from the like founder of their company or maybe even just people team. They're like, we don't want you to do that much. You're part of our company now. And if you want to post, you're technically posting on behalf of our company, even if it is about the company. And then there are people who have given me feedback like, oh, my company loves it.
Yeah.
Like they're getting all of these leads now and people are going to the web page and you could tell they're going to the web page for my LinkedIn because you can track the UTMs, but things like that. But I think that controversy is a lot of the bad things that could happen to your personal brand in there. If you get too controversial or too political, then you're definitely probably have a chance of burning bridges and your company that you work for might not like that.
Yeah.
And it's not good for you. Oh, you have to like have a line that you don't cross and it's tough to figure out what that is, I think.
So I guess that line is, when does a personal brand get too personal?
And I don't think that anybody knows when that is yet. And there are things on there that I'm like, whoa, I can't believe they published that. Like maybe that was even too much for like Facebook. But then there are times when I'm like, I didn't think that was that bad. But then people commented like, why did you share about your divorce? Like you shouldn't do that on here. And they're like, well, I felt like it had to do with my job performance. So I turned it into a job performance because like I didn't do that good when I was going through my divorce and I didn't tell anybody. And finally I told my manager and he took that off of my shoulders. But people have their own opinions on what you should and what you should not talk about on LinkedIn. Right. Companies have their own opinions about it too.
Well, obviously, yeah, they're taking a much huger risk than you are. If you lose your job, that sucks. If they lose credibility or get canceled or whatever, that could be a lot of people losing jobs. So.
Oh yeah. And then there are companies that just are not active at all on LinkedIn that don't know that they even have employees that are that engaged with it. It's kind of it depends, I think. But I think just, the line, like what is the line? What is the line for your company? What is the line for you? And you have to figure out what that is. And eventually maybe people will nail that down, but I don't think that we know what that is on LinkedIn. If you went on LinkedIn 2 years ago, nothing like this existed. It was just like job host, hiring, blah, blah, blah. My company is cool. Now it's like people telling you stories on there. And maybe they're going into too much detail. Maybe they're not. I mean, it depends on the human being to evaluate that. You
Right.
can't make everybody happy, just like a company can't make everybody happy. You're going to have your people that like what you do, and you're going to have people that don't. And you got to be okay with that, because you're not going to make everybody fall in love with you on there.
Totally. So when your strength is obviously storytelling. So how do you have like some sort of simple way, right, that people can introduce more storytelling into their work? Like how do you process through some of that to know that like, hey, this is more than just a post, this is a story?
I think that people underestimate the power of an interview.
Mm.
You could be a content marketer like me, and you could have clients who are doing cool things, but you're not talking to them. And a lot of the times the client is willing to like have an actual discussion from you and get quoted, and just getting on a phone call or a Zoom call and being like, hey, tell me about you. What are you doing? And then you get down to the nitty gritty of like how your company is doing this amazing thing for them. But you don't tell it like that. You tell it more like inverted pyramid to their life. Like this is their life. This is what you did for them. And at the end, maybe you have like more things to hook people into like buying what you have. But you have to get, it's the human thing, the heart of the story, I guess. The human angle is what hooks people into it. And a lot of the times it's just getting interviews from people and talking to them to find out more about like what you should be asking, I think. And I don't think everybody's comfortable interviewing.
Yeah.
I was in journalism, but a lot of marketers didn't get told how to do that. And I think just like figuring out how to do that or talking to people for advice on it is a good thing. And it is uncomfortable in the beginning. Like not everybody went to school and got told like how to do that.
Yeah.
And it's, if you don't ever do it because you're afraid of doing it, then you're missing out on opportunities. So.
Well, outside of, figuring out how to solve an equation, I don't know what else school taught. So not building a personal brand and making money.
No, definitely not.
So we've talked about building a personal brand. We've talked about, sharing, but not oversharing, stuff like that. What do you think is like one other way in your experience that what's one thing that someone could do to stand out like today, like something they could go and post, and I'm not asking you to share, like, how do you go viral? Cause we all know that is yeah, it totally is. And you're kidding yourself if you think you can just make a viral post. But what's one thing that people can do to start standing out, like starting today with their content that could elevate?
Yeah. So I think that the most important thing is to get quantity out there, and showing up as much as you can is going to get you what you need to get. I like the idea of quality, of course, because I think that I used to be a perfectionist and it would take me a long time to finish anything because I feel like it would get judged too much or too many eyes on it. But then again, in my background, I used to turn out things like every day because I was a newspaper reporter. So I have kind of both of that in me a little bit. But I think the fact that if you just show up all the time, authentically, you have something maybe creative about the way that you do things, and people start expecting that you're going to be there, then you get to the point when you push ahead. And I know that could be difficult because being consistent is, I mean, in theory, we all should be, but actually playing it out and executing it and then not getting like, oh my God, I cannot do this one more time. You don't want it to be cumbersome. And I don't know what kind of advice exactly to give people, except that you just have to keep doing it. And when you keep doing it, you get better at it. I don't, like, people ask me all the time, like, how do you know what to post on LinkedIn every day? I'm like, I don't know. I always have ideas. I have an idea. I have 15 ideas. I have 25 ideas. And the more I do it, the more ideas I come up with. And it's because of the conversations I'm having with people in my posts. I get a comment. I'm like, oh my God, I should talk about that. I get a message. Oh my gosh, I should talk about that. I had a poll that I put out yesterday talking about, like, had anybody ever been punished by a company for what they've been doing on LinkedIn? Right. And I mean, there are a million stories out there. You just got to go find them.
Which is awesome, because then at that point, someone's giving you the content that you're going to be using. You don't even have to make it.
It's amazing. I think we underestimate each other. There are people in your company probably that are amazing people to talk to that maybe don't feel that comfortable all the time getting on social media and doing things. But if you took initiative and were like, hey, I want to talk to you about that cool thing that you're doing, it wouldn't have to put your name in it if they didn't want their name in it, even it could be anonymous, but like just going out of your way to get to know people and who they are behind the job title, I think. Because people are not just their job.
No, yeah, absolutely. And to me, that's like, it humanizes the whole process, which is really what I would imagine, at least from your guys' perspective, a personal brand is supposed to do, which is just humanize every part of the process, every part of the communication, every part of the image, where instead of just interacting with a business, you're interacting with a human being, and they're not trying to sell you. They're just talking about what they're doing. And I think we're just going to see more of that. I think that I do know that I think corporations have been, some of them have been vilified and it's unwarranted, but at the same time, I just think people really enjoy working with other people too. And as corporations grow and get bigger, that connectedness starts spreading out. Like, even like the gripe that I always have is like, Starbucks used to like write on your cup and you had like a relationship with people, and now they're so busy and they want you to get through the line so fast because they have so many people coming that now they're like doing stickers and all these other things, and there's no personality to it anymore.
And I hate that. Like I used to go to Starbucks all the time. I don't even go anymore.
Yeah.
Like I'd prefer to go to my little local coffee shops because I like the human element. And I think that having that makes a huge difference. I mean, I would be willing to pay a little bit more to have that than, not that Starbucks is cheap, but I would be willing to pay a little bit more to have that in my life. Like, I don't want to get to the point when everything that we do just feels like a transaction.
Oh yeah. And which is exactly what most things are on social media. It's like, hey, buy this, buy that, follow this, follow that. And businesses miss a huge opportunity to be personal, I think. So
totally.
So cool. Well, thank you so much for being on the show. Definitely want to respect your time. And
thanks for having me. I had a good time.
Absolutely. And so if you could just share, we'll be sure to throw it into the show notes and all that other jazz, but if you could just share where people can find you, reach out to you. Obviously LinkedIn is huge for you. So if you want to just share that would be amazing.
So if you go on LinkedIn, my name is Ashley Amber Hughes, and I'm the only one with that name on there.
Lucky you.
I have the link though. Would that be better if I dropped it in the chat for you to share?
That'd be awesome. Thank you.
Yeah.
I will copy and paste it into my Trello so I can make sure that's in there properly. So.
Well, I appreciate your time and thank you for the opportunity.
Yeah, of course. Thank you. I appreciate it. And am I able to copy this? Am I not able to copy? There we go. Copy. Awesome. Cool. All right. Thank you so much for having us on here. And then I will probably have this up, not this coming Tuesday, but the Tuesday after that. It will be live, and I'll be looking. Yeah, I'll send you the links and everything. All right, have a good one.
Wanna cause no problems. I just wanna live my life, but I keep on hearing about nonsense. Me and my dons ain't mobsters, but you know when you see imposters. We know how to read them faces, same way you know how to read them comments. If you wanna talk, let's talk, but around here, make sure you walk and your talk is constant.
Thank you so much for watching this episode of the Death to Vanilla podcast. Now, if you made it this far, I'm guessing you probably heard something that was inspiring or helpful, and we would love to hear about it. So if you could drop that information in the comments or shoot me an email, steven@burkhartcreativeagency.com. That would go a long way to helping us choose guests and create content that really bring you value. Now, Instagram is my favorite social media platform, but I'm sure you have yours. And so we encourage you to find us on your favorite platform so that you have a chance to learn more about marketing that can help you out. Now, they say a rising tide rises all boats. So we ask that you would like, subscribe, and follow us, so that way the traffic that we get to our channel helps all of the guests that have been on. Our traffic is their traffic, and that helps everybody out, and it's super easy to do. So if you could rate us, like us, add us, follow us, whatever you need to do to help us out, that would go a long way. So we appreciate you and hope to catch you on the next episode of the Death to Vanilla podcast.